Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. So happy you're here with me today. So glad you hit play. Hopefully, this subject and maybe the title attracted you to wanting to listen to this episode. I think it's something that we can all relate to on a certain level. And I do want to shed some light on how we can overcome self-sabotage, what it truly means, why we do it, and how it can show up in our lives in different ways. So, it's been really, really obvious to me lately, and honestly, a little frustrating. I've been noticing my own self-sabotage. And now I'm pretty annoyed about how obvious it is. It's like I can clearly see the loop and the same pattern that has quietly kept me stuck below my potential, below my mission in ways I didn't fully understand before. But the interesting thing is that this awareness is actually a breakthrough for me. Because before this, the sabotage showed up silently. It was disguised as other things. It felt like an ache that had no name, a pain that was so confusing it created chaos, a desire that was there but didn't quite have a voice yet. There have been ebbs and flows to this clarity. It's been excruciating. Moments where I can see the pattern so clearly, and other moments where it fades back into the background. And I think part of that is because other areas of my life had to come into alignment first before I could even see this layer of programming. So while this realization feels like an epiphany, it also feels like a loss for me. It feels like a loss of time, a loss of energy, a loss of direction that could have been mine a long time ago. And I know this emotion has a name. It feels like regret. It is regret. And usually regret has shame attached to it. And I feel ashamed for continuing in this loop. And I think it's important to acknowledge that part too. But we also have to remember something really important, that if I knew better, I would have done better. And a lot of the times throughout this process, it's like psychologically, intellectually, I knew better, but I just could not choose differently. I just didn't know how to break that ceiling to get past it. And if you feel like that, this episode's for you. And, um, for the most part, when we self-sabotage, we weren't consciously choosing it. We don't consciously choose this, but it just feels frustrating. It just feels like, why? And what's interesting to me is that this self-sabotaging behavior somehow overrode some of the most well-constructed parts of my personality, my beliefs, my values, truths that I hold very dear. It overrode all that, and that's insane, which makes you wonder, if you feel like there's something you want, something healthy, something worthy, something you truly believe is meant for you, that desire is genuine, right? You have a genuine desire for something. The work has been done. You've put in the time, the effort, the reflection. You've done the journaling and the meditation and the education, and you've given it time. But when it begins to arrive, something inside of you pushes it away before it can fully land. And you're questioning why you can't get to that next level, that next stage or phase, or achieve that thing or break through something. And if you've ever experienced that, it can feel incredibly confusing because you start asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why do I keep messing this up? But what's happening behind the scenes, it's not a weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's not unworthiness of you deserving that thing or deserving to get something. It's not a lack of talent or ability or knowledge or discipline. It just isn't. What's happening is your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your nervous system's primary job is to maintain the internal environment it recognizes as safe. This is deep work, people. This is a deep realization. Once you start to understand that smart, intelligent, talented people get stuck in this loop, even if the environment is actually good for you, even if the change in front of you is a positive one, your nervous system senses different, senses unsafe. For example, it could be a new level of income, more visibility, more love, more success. If that internal experience is unfamiliar, your nervous system can interpret it as a threat. It doesn't recognize the new environment yet. The nervous system has a range of internal states that it recognizes as safe based on past experience. Psychologist Peter Levine, whose work on trauma and the nervous system has been widely published, describes this as the window of tolerance. This is the range where our nervous system feels regulated and safe. Anything outside of that range, even positive expansion, can trigger an automatic return to the familiar baseline. We want to just go back there. We either start to experience self-doubt and fear and like we don't believe in ourselves, or confusion, and all these things start to come up to just prevent us to get there. And if you felt like you've just been on the verge, almost there to that next level, but it just doesn't keep happening, it's most likely this nervous system that has been trained through your environment, and most likely through our childhood environment, which means the question isn't really, why did I sabotage this? The real question becomes, what does my nervous system currently believe is the upper limit of what is safe for me to have? And that limit is not a character flaw, even though it definitely feels like one. Trust me, I've had plenty of moments where I thought, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, why can't I surpass this? Like, I know I'm capable, but this limit is actually a boundary that was drawn from old experiences that have never been updated. And I've discussed this before in different aspects. Our childhood scripts, the things that are written in our psyche and our nervous system in our body, how they show up. And I've had various examples of things coming up to the surface as I've done inner work throughout the years, as I've become a more self-aware woman and more connected, not just to my mind, but also to my body. I've realized things, how much I've just been operating in these scripts. The nervous system simply learned what was normal at some point in our lives, and it continues protecting that familiar territory. And like I said before, it could be positive expansion. It could be a good thing. So updating that boundary doesn't happen through like positive thinking. This is why the journaling and the work and the podcast episodes, and maybe you watching some programs or listening to your favorite self-help leaders, why that is still not changing. And it doesn't happen through that stronger intention. Like if I'm stronger, if I have more will, it will happen. It actually happens gradually by expanding the nervous system's window of tolerance. One of the most effective ways to do this is by spending consistent time in the emotional state of the level you want. Okay, let's pause here for a second. What does that mean? Before it arrives externally, we have to start feeling the sensations of the belief that we're there already, that we're that person, that it's familiar. The body has to become familiar with that internal environment first. Think about people who seem to achieve certain things very naturally in their lives. I know you've seen them. They're all around us, right? We are probably, you guys listening, the audience right now, you're listening to me, and I know that you're capable people. You've achieved certain things, but there's that one area or with that one challenge in your life where it just keeps looping and you just can't get past it. So these people, right, that you might be looking at them and they have healthy relationships, financial success, visibility in their careers. Often it's not because they're trying harder or they have something that you don't, like more intelligence, more this, more that. It's because their nervous system already accepts that level as normal. Maybe they grew up around it. Maybe they saw it modeled early in life. So their system doesn't fight it. Their nervous system simply recognizes it as safe. But for the rest of us, the practice becomes very specific. If we want to combat something, a loop, or something that we see repeating or that we can't overcome, we need to have a very specific practice. And the first thing that we need to do is identify the level you keep almost reaching and then retreating from. So that loving relationship, where's the threshold that you keep pushing back, that you just can't get either achieve more intimacy with that person? Why? Maybe in your entrepreneurial pursuits, there's this hidden belief that you don't deserve this because you learned that early on. And there's a level of unworthiness of success. So figure that out. Identify the level you almost keep reaching, but then you keep retreating from. And spend about 5 minutes each day sitting in the genuine emotional state of someone for whom that level is simply normal, not exciting. Let's make a distinction. Normal, not aspirational, just ordinary. How would a person who knows how to truly sit in love and intimacy and in communication with another person, allowing them to see them fully and not fearing being seen, or that person who's trying to achieve a next level in their career, how is that person who does have that next level that you want, how do they live in that? How do they handle money success or the stresses of a business? How do they live in that state? It needs to become ordinary, and we need to start using our imagination and spending some time in our bodies, not just our head, but in our bodies. And this shift tends to happen in a very interesting way. It happens gradually and then suddenly. I've seen it with other things that I've adopted in my life that weren't part of my identity, that I had to rewrite and gradually create a different belief in my body and in my mind. And some of those were easier for me to achieve. And like the one I'm facing at the moment is probably the hardest rewrite and the deepest programming that is so embedded in me, and it was covered up in so many layers that it has taken me years to realize this. And this is probably the next level for me. The next level of achievement is if I can break this loop. What starts happening is that what once felt like too much begins to feel like simply where you live. The sabotage stops. Not because you suddenly found more willpower, but because your nervous system no longer registers that next level as foreign territory that needs to be defended against. Expanding your nervous system's window of tolerance for the life you want might be one of the most important things we can do if we truly want to transform our lives. I would definitely recommend you looking into nervous system rewiring, and I would highly recommend getting out of just your head and getting into your body as well. That journey from the head to the heart is only about 18 inches, but truly could be miles and miles and miles long in regards to how resistant we are to connect those two. So my invitation to you today is, again, look at where you keep almost getting to a point, but then you self-sabotage or you retreat and you start doubting and you're confused, but you're frustrated on why this keeps happening. That's the place where your nervous system is scared to get out of safety mode. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Hopefully you found some value in this. I definitely recommend you researching how we can reprogram our nervous system. And I hope that you can stop self-sabotaging and reach that next level for yourself. It is the same desire I have for me. And so I have that for you, my friend. Take care.